So let's talk about this new Arrow 4K UHD release of the 1976 kind of cult classic psychological horror slash slasher film. It is kind of a prototype for the slasher film because really the slasher heyday started when Halloween was released in 1978. But the film we're going to talk about here today is Alice, Sweet Alice, also known as Communion and also known as Holy Terror. Now in this video we're going to talk about this new 4K transfer. We're going to talk about the story about the film a little bit, and eventually I'm going to rate this film on a scale from 1 to 5, 1 being the highest and 5 being the lowest. I'm Dave Watkins, Watkins Films, and if you do me a favor and go ahead and like this video and subscribe to my channel. Now this film also, to me, feels a little bit like an Italian Giallo film, kind of like the bird with the crystal plumage, or if you were going to pronounce this in French, it would be plumage. But the bird with the crystal plumage, it kind of feels a little bit like one of these films. It does seem a little more polished, I think. This is an American film, and it takes place in New Jersey, and it takes place in 1961. So for it to come out in 1976, it is kind of a period piece for that particular time. Most of the film takes place in apartments, or there's a Catholic church. Some of it takes place in there, so it has some interesting locations. The director, Alfred Sole, he directed this, and he also directed Pandemonium and a few other films. But after that, he really got into set design, and that's kind of what he continued to do for the rest of his career. And the set design in this is actually pretty damn good, and it looks fairly authentic, especially because you had a 76 film and you're trying to make it look like 61 or something to that nature. So this is kind of like the evolution, or maybe the de-evolution of the Giallo film, which kind of branched off to slasher films before the slasher film became the formula that we know that it is today. Now this one involves more of a family dynamic, or a breakup of a family. It involves like a mother who's divorced, and she's got two daughters, and then one of the daughters is brutally murdered at church. They're at a Catholic church during communion, and one of the daughters is brutally murdered and then burned at church, and it involves like one of the other daughters named Alice, and she's the prime suspect for the audience. And this girl seems to have some kind of, I guess, almost schizophrenic like qualities, and the actress does a very convincing job of playing this character. I think it was 18 years old. She's playing a much younger character. Maybe I think the character's supposed to be 14, I think. But the younger daughter is played by Brooke Shields, and when it was made, she's very young, and she's the one that dies first. Brooke Shields, when they did the re-release of this and they renamed it Holy Terror, they billed Brooke Shields first, but she's only in the film briefly. I think she dies within the first 20 minutes of it. But she's the young girl who's killed, and the killer wears a raincoat and a plastic mask. Now the character Alice often wears this as well. But this is quite a brutal scene in it, and it's and after that the dad of the young girl comes back to see what's going on, and so he's remarried, but the mom still seems to have an attachment with him. But a lot of this is kind of a commentary on this separated family situation, which is kind of made the single mother situation. It's kind of a commentary on that in a way, but it also has religious themes as well. But it is kind of, as the film progresses and you see this person wearing this yellow raincoat comes more and more and kills more people, there's a lot of tension and a lot of dread that's happens throughout the film. It does remind me, and it is quite intentional, the director was familiar with Don't Look Now. This is a Donald Sutherland film. There is a trench coat and a raincoat wearing killer. They wear a red raincoat in this one, so it's kind of different because it's red and not yellow. But I do like the cover to this. It does have the yellowness of it, which is the raincoat on screen. Now, the yellow raincoat on screen, which looks like a mustard color or mac and cheese color, it really pops out through every time you see it. You see it popping out, just especially in this 4K. I'm not sure how it would look in Blu-ray. I've never seen. This is my first time watching the film, but it really stands out throughout the film, and really the look of this is quite polished. It is shot on film, so there is a lot of film grain here, and maybe I don't think there's been like a removal of the film grain, but it actually looks quite nice, and the textures of the skin tones. This is an HDR version of the film. It is HDR, so the the coloring, especially the skin tones, have that HDR look, which is a lot more color to the faces, a lot more like colors you wouldn't be able to see if it wasn't for the HDR. And it's more of a contrasty, more of a vivid look to the skin tones, and you can see this throughout. And you can also see a lot of detail on the faces. To the clarity is pretty well done here. Even though there is a lot of film grain involved. If that film grain distracts you, you might be distracted. But I thought it looked pretty good, because I'd rather it be there than try to clean it up and you lose the detail of the faces and the textures of the set design and things of that nature. This is set like mostly in apartments, and there's a lot of exterior scenes that take place during the day. Now, the weird thing about this film, I don't think there's any really nighttime scenes. It's all like takes place during the day, but some of the places are quite eerie. This apartment complex in general is kind of a pretty nasty type of place, and then they go into like abandoned, like there's a sequence where it's like an abandoned type of apartment where one of the characters is stalked and killed, and it's pretty brutal as far as some of the stabbings that this raincoat wearing assailant does. It's pretty gruesome often, but it doesn't go into too bad a gore. There's a lot of blood, but it's not like a ridiculous amount of gore or things of that nature. It kind of keeps it a little bit tasteful, but it does have a good bit amount of blood in the film. So let's take a quick look at this packaging here. I really do like this design. This is the yellow just kind of really stands out, and you got this half-face knife. It's like a kind of the mask face, and then the human face. I really like that. On the inside of it, we have the same design on this one. This would be this is the limited with this. If you got the standard release, it would just be this. On the inside, we have one disc only, which is kind of typical of a lot of Arrow releases, and it is a 4K UHD release. There is a random card here and then there is the booklet. It is a kind of small booklet here. There's the director, Alfred Sole, on the back. It said it's dedicated to him. He died in 2022. A little more about the presentation. The original 35mm camera negative was scanned in 4K 16-bit at Warner Brothers Motion Pictures Imaging. The film was restored in 4K and color graded at silver salt restoration. Now, and the color grading here, I've never seen it before, but apparently it did go into public domain, and that's why there was a re-release of it. But I think the color grading to me looks fantastic. I think they did a really nice job, and the HDR it really just looks fantastic here. Now, there is a reversible insert inside of this that has the original theatrical movie poster on it. So which one do you like better? I'm kind of leaning towards the new one, but let me know what you think in the comments below. There's the killer in the yellow with Brooke Shields. And there's the killer with the mask. It's just like one of those kind of Halloween masks, but it's very effective because it does obscure the face, and you don't know exactly who it is. And this is an example of the depth of field that the director uses. You know, he's got the one lady in the front kind of in focus, and the guy behind her. Very nice compositions with the shots. And there's Brooke Shields, very young Brooke Shields. And there's another Brooke Shields. She's only in the movie. She's not in it very much. She's the first person that gets killed. But there's a lot of nice pictures in here. There's a little bit of there's some blood there. The sound design I thought was pleasant enough. I watched it on a mono television, but I could hear all the dialogue and the sound effects, and the music kind of just definitely helped build that suspense and the dread as the film went on. There's a big block of extras here it's all about so many extras on here. There's a lot of archive extras on here, and there's a pretty impressive amount of them. There are a few new things. There's a brand new interview with the composer Stephen Lawrence, and a brand new interview with actor Niles McMaster, who played the father in it. And then there's a lot of other archive extras. So there's a pretty impressive amount of extras on the disc. As far as the film itself, I did enjoy watching it. I think the performances, I didn't recognize most of the actors except for the young Brooke Shields, but I think the actors were very believable in their parts. I think the performances seem very authentic, and it actually kind of helps a little bit that you don't recognize them. I thought that the director Alfred Sole pulled some very, very fine performances from these actors, even though they are somewhat of a subtle performances, but they were all believable. I thought. Now the aunt may have been a little over the top, but she went through some pretty serious stuff. She got to get stabbed and she's in the hospital and she's freaking out. But maybe that's a bit much. But it was still a pretty compelling performance. The actress playing Alice, Paula Shepherd, she was really impressive in this, and she had you guessing throughout the film whether she was the killer or not the killer, if she was schizophrenic. She's playing a much younger girl, but then it's kind of scary when you think about a younger girl suddenly having like a weird adult-like intelligence, or adult-like, not necessarily even intelligence. It's more like an experience, like especially when there's a really big dude playing the landlord who's a really scumbag, and it's a pretty brutal scene. He tries to molest her at one point, but before she comes in, she's just giving him hell, and she's doing it in a kind of provoking way. She's kind of and she does seem a little unstable, and she definitely wants to cause trouble, it seems, in general. But she's definitely got some psychological problems. But the actress does a terrific job. She didn't do a lot more work after this. She didn't really pursue acting, unfortunately. So let's go ahead and rate Alice, Sweet Alice on a scale from 1 to 5, 1 being the lowest and 5 being the highest. I'm going to give Alice, Sweet Alice a 3.5-star rating. I think it does, just because I think that's the proper rating for it, because of the pacing is a little off, but at the same time it has a lot of interesting things to say about the religion, and as far as the family dynamic, and the performances here are very believable. And the imagery of the woman or the girl in the raincoat killing people, that it is fairly compelling. And some of the scenes when people are killed are quite gruesome and quite disturbing. As far as what Arrow has delivered here with their release, I'm going to give them a 4-star rating. I would have liked to have seen something, maybe not for this movie, but I do like to see these thick Arrow sets like Demolition Man. I did a review on Demolition Man. I would recommend checking that review out. I thought it turned out pretty good, and if I don't say so myself. And if you go ahead and do me a favor and like this video, subscribe to my channel. I'm Dave Watkins. Thanks for watching.